This video is to assist ELICOS students and any other students that need assistance with how to complete the financial assistance application for COVID financial assistance from the University of Newcastle. This form covers an application for a hardship grant or hardship loan of up to $500. Now, the first step to complete this form is to download it from the internet from the University of Newcastle's financial wellbeing page. So this form can be downloaded from this page here about financial wellbeing. In a previous video, I'd showed you how to find this page and how to download the Student Hardship Fund voucher and save it to your computer so you can complete the form on Adobe and not through Google Chrome. The same info applies to this form. So I'm going to assume that you all know that when you click on this, don't fill out the form on the internet. Download it first, open it in Adobe Acrobat, and complete it in the Adobe Acrobat software. If you need more assistance on that part of the process, please watch the video published about how to complete the COVID-19 Hardship Fund voucher application. In that video, I go through that process of downloading and saving the form more thoroughly, and I show you how to save it and open it in Adobe before you complete it. But for this video, I'm going to skip through that part of the tutorial and go straight to having the form open in Adobe Acrobat and completing the fields of the form. And the reason for this is that financial assistance application form is much longer and more detailed at 5 pages, so it's going to take me longer to go through each of the questions. So let's start here on page 1. Fairly simple. The first thing to do is enter your full student name and student number. Student number is the 9-digit number starting with 3. Then you can read the application where it talks information about applications will be considered only for those students currently residing in Australia and those who have genuine financial hardship. So you do need to only complete this application if you really need some financial support from the university. If you are comfortable and receiving income from family overseas or from a job, this application probably doesn't apply to you. It's only for those students who have genuine financial hardship where their study might be placed in jeopardy if they cannot pay some costs that they have. So this form will ask for evidence of your financial need. So in order to apply for financial assistance, you do need to include quite a number of documentation. So the documentation that you need is listed here, and you must tick the boxes to indicate that you know and you have included this documentation in your application. So you must include a completed copy of this application form that you are doing now. You must also include 2 forms of ID. One of those can be your University of Newcastle student card, but you must include 2. So the other must be your passport or another form of ID with your name. The third thing you must include is your current bank statement. You might have already downloaded a current bank statement to apply for the hardship voucher. That hardship voucher bank statement should be okay for this application too. But as you can see here, there are further terms. The current bank statement that you supply must have all the accounts that you hold on it. So maybe it's not one statement, you might need to include 2 statements. If you have 2 bank accounts, such as a savings account and an everyday transaction account, then you need to include both of those in your application. And it must include data for a full month of transactions. So if you downloaded a bank statement today, that bank statement must include the full month of transactions from the 20th of April up to the 20th of May. If you don't know how to get a bank statement and how to download it and get all of this data that you need, contact your bank. Contact your bank's inquiry center or send them an email inquiry and they will help you. The fourth one here is income. So This Centrelink is Australia's welfare agency. Centrelink only supports Australian citizens, so that would not apply to most ELICOS students. But if you have any kind of employment, any kind of job or income, you need to include a statement of that income, how much money you are earning. And that doesn't mean your application won't be approved. It's just so that we get a comprehensive picture of your state, your finances. So we need 3 payslips or payment advice from your employer. If you have a job, they should be providing you with these payslips or payment advices on a weekly or fortnightly basis. So you need to provide 3 of those. If you don't have a job, you can leave this box blank. Then you also need valid evidence of your costs. So you need to show us why you need the money, why you need the financial assistance. So that can be in the form of bills. Perhaps you have a bill for your phone, bill for your electricity, or a bill for your water that you cannot afford to pay. Or perhaps you have a receipt of some rent that you just paid, but it used all your money and you have no more money. So you can demonstrate and show how much rent you are paying for your accommodation or your housing bond. Perhaps it's how much your textbooks cost for your course. Whatever it is, you do need to supply valid evidence of costs. As you can see here, it says we cannot provide funds without valid evidence of costs. So if you don't include any evidence of costs you have, your application will not be approved. There's a note here to remind you that there is a minimum waiting period of 7 to 10 days. Then on page 2, it goes into asking you some questions about your state of finance. And they talk about this state of financial hardship. Someone who is in immediate financial disadvantage is someone who cannot meet their basic living needs. Food, water, and shelter are your basic living needs. So can you pay for your accommodation, shelter? Can you pay for your food? Can you pay for water? So those things, you must answer this question one honestly. Do you believe you can meet your basic living needs? If so, you would say, no, I'm not in financial hardship. Now, that's okay. This application is not just for people in absolute financial hardship. Perhaps you just have a cost that you really can't afford at the moment. So you can choose no, or you can choose unsure. Only tick yes if you are really, really in a desperate situation and unable to supply your basic living needs. Then for question 2, put in your current age, and question 3, put in an Australian mobile number. Your contact telephone must be an Australian mobile number so that the university staff can contact you. Now, your term time address, this is where you live during the university terms or while you are in ELICOS. So you all ELICOS students would fill in an address in Callaghan, Shortland, or a suburb near the university, or perhaps you would be living in Sydney or Wollongong, but you need to put where you are living at the moment. Then it says, provide your home address if it is different for your term time address. So this is talking about students who go home during vacation periods to live with family in other parts of Australia. You don't need to include your international address here unless you plan to return to your country in vacation periods, in vacation times, which is not the case for most ELICOS students, as they only have to leave the country if there is a break of more than 8 weeks. Then you're asked, do you pay for your own accommodation? Yes, most ELICOS students and international students are paying rent. So you would say, yes, I pay for my accommodation and I'm either renting or I'm living in homestay with an Australian family. So most of you would not own a home in Australia or live with family in Australia. So you would say you are renting or in homestay. And your residency status is as an international student. Then here are the answers for question 9. Your faculty is the English Language Centre. You don't need to type that. And your program is whatever level of English you are currently studying. Then you select that you are in the first year of your study and you're in an enabling program, because the purpose of ELICOS is to enable you to then move to undergraduate or postgraduate studies. So you are in your first year of an enabling program. And then it asks you about your relationship status and if you have any other people who are dependent on your income. You would most likely select no here. This is for people who have children or people they care for who they pay money for. Then question 12 is why you are asking for the financial assistance. Why do you need the money? You need to have specific reasons for making this application and for applying for this money. So you need to be able to explain what those reasons are. Here are some examples. I need a computer, or I'm struggling to pay my rent. But you need to supply specific examples, and this will match with the evidence. This must match with the valid evidence that you supply in your bills or receipts. Then in question 13 asks you, how much assistance do you require? So you note the question does not say how much money do you want, it's how much do you require. So $500 is the maximum, but you don't need to enter $500. It depends on what you need the money for. So please be honest and put in how much money you actually need or require. Then also put in whether you want the money as a grant with no obligation to repay it, or a loan because you believe you will be able to repay it at a future date. And question 5, or page 5, is a complicated table about your estimated income and expenses. So here, the first part of the table is about your income. Most ELICOS students will have very little income. So as you can see in my examples here, you will put 0 in most of the columns. But please pay careful attention to what the columns are asking you about. Most of you wouldn't have employment, so you would enter 0, and your partner would also not have a job, so you would enter 0. But you would probably all be receiving some kind of allowance from your parents overseas. So you need to be honest and put in how much money you are earning from your parents transferring money every 2 weeks. So if they transfer money every week, you have to double it for 2 weeks. Then you have to times that figure by 26 to put in how much you get per year. It's because there's 26 fortnights in a year, so you have to times it by 26 and put the cost there. So my suggestion is to complete this whole side of the table first, or the 2 weeks costs, and then go through and do your calculations times 26 to enter in the per year column. So most of you would not be receiving any Centrelink payments or rental assistance, so you can put 0 in those ones, or any government assistance, as these are usually things provided only to Australian citizens. But maybe you are on a scholarship from your country or your government. If that is the case, you need to put in how much they send you every 2 weeks and how much that totals per year. Then in the next section, you need to put in your expenses. These are going to be estimates based on how much you believe you spend on a fortnightly basis or every 2 weeks on each of these things, and how much you would spend per year. So again, I advise you to do the 2 weeks column in total and then go through and times all your answers by 26 and put that figure into the per year column over here. So how much you spend every 2 weeks. Again, yes, it's going to be an estimate, but be honest, you might be asked to supply evidence of these things. So don't just put outrageous figures. Think honestly about how much rent you pay per week and then times it by 2 and put the cost here. Then think about how much you spend on your food and groceries, your phone bill, your internet, your tickets for the bus. If you have a car, things like registration, insurance, and maintenance, electricity and gas. This could be included in your rent. That depends on your rental agreement. If it's included in your rent, you put 0. But if your landlord actually charges you extra costs to pay for electricity, gas, or water, then you would put that cost here. Education expenses such as books and stationery, childcare, most likely 0 unless you do have a child that you put in childcare. Medical expenses if you are going to the doctor or if you take regular medication for a condition such as diabetes. And subscriptions or memberships would include things like Netflix. Maybe you're paying $14 a month for Netflix, so you would halve that to 7. Then alcohol, cigarettes, if you're paying $100 every 2 weeks for that. If you're spending money on clothes, you need to include that.